daughter's art pad. You got 2 kids, Jamil?
Yeah.
For you. I think Jim has 8. All right. You got 8 is enough?
8 is enough.
Yeah. Plus 2. You have 8 kids?
Oh. Yeah.
It is.
Actually, I have 7. One unfortunately passed away, but yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm a family of 6 with 2 brothers and a sister.
Yep. We don't have too many big families anymore, for sure.
Daniel, you got a sibling, don't you?
I do indeed.
Moved back to Pittsburgh or? No.
Younger sister, she's in the process of moving from Bainbridge,
just FYI.
Okay, very good.
Bainbridge Island to Tucson.
Well, let's call the meeting to order.
Okay. Please announce your presence. Commissioner Hannon.
Here.
Commissioner Koig is absent. Commissioner Marinelli.
Here.
Commissioner Gupta, absent. Chair Gall.
Here.
Commissioner Kleinbaum is absent, and Commissioner Gittens.
Here.
Roll call is complete.
Time to salute the flag.
Yeah.
All right, let's do that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Do I hear an approval for the order of agenda?
So move.
I'll second that.
Second.
Okay. Commissioner Hannon.
Yes.
Commissioner Marinelli.
Yes.
Commissioner Gall.
Yes.
And Commissioner Gittens.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Officer Lostrom. I would so approved. Expect that no blue folder items. We move on to the consent calendar number or letter F. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. So the boilerplate on that is business items, except those formally noticed for a public hearing or discussion, are assigned to the consent calendar. The commission members may request that any calendar item be removed, discussed, and acted upon separately. Items removed from the consent calendar will be taken up under the excluded consent calendar section below. Those items remaining on the consent calendar will be approved in one motion following oral communications. Anybody want to do anything? All right. Can I move on to F1 or F2? Do I need to?
You can move on both at the same time.
Okay.
So moves.
Can I get an approval for the affidavit of posting and the approval of minutes, May 16th, 2022?
To approve.
Say again, sir?
Motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Hannon.
Yes.
Commissioner Marinelli.
Yes.
Commissioner Gall.
Yes.
And Commissioner Gittens.
Yes.
So approved.
Great. Thank you. Letter G, excluded consent calendar items. I assume none.
Correct.
Okay, great. And then we have H, which is public participation on non-agenda items. Excuse me, getting over a cold. Just reading the boilerplate and actually having attendees here, I'll read this carefully, but this section is intended to provide members of the public with the opportunity to comment on any subject that does not appear on this agenda for action. This section is limited to 30 minutes. Each speaker will be afforded 3 minutes to address the commission. Each speaker will be permitted to speak only once. Written requests, if any, will be considered first under this section. So Officer Lostrom, do we have any written requests?
No written requests. There's an e-comment from a David Martin, October 14th, 7:34 a.m., and it reads as follows. I am a District 4 resident. I wanted to discuss 2 things. I recently spoke to a firefighter at Station 2 in regards of the fire department, and I think adding another rescue unit to the city would alleviate the call load for other stations. The modern day fire department responds to medical calls for the most part, and I believe investing in another rescue unit would ensure the amount wear and tear on fire apparatus would be minimal. If another rescue unit could be added, I believe that it should be at Station 3, which I think is the harbor station, and increase its response radius. If you want to think bigger, then maybe having a new station in District 5 would be beneficial to maximize use, our resources, because at Station 2, it doesn't make sense to have two engines with the rescue parked in the rear parking lot. The Harbor Patrol needs to be reevaluated for outsourcing or as its own entity like the City of Avalon. Secondly, I want to ask that the North Redondo Police Substation be evaluated and utilized for more community outreach. I walked to the substation and saw the intercom button on the outside, which I believe talks to dispatch for police responses. And the city personnel for park and recreation stated that police use the building for reports. Now, I do believe having officers use that building to write reports is beneficial so they could respond quickly to incidents in North Redondo. I don't know if Redondo Beach Police have the equivalent of the LAPD senior lead officer who acts as a liaison between the police and community, but I think having an officer or two have an office in that substation with office hours on certain day would be huge for the community. This could be a way for business owners, citizens, or community leaders in North Redondo could get to know their neighborhood cop who is actually nearby and problem solve with them. The police car has made the modern day police officer distance from the community and has replaced the beat cop. I am not saying the substation should be staffed 24/7 and know the restrictions of patrol staffing. There's an opportunity with the substation and I think it's worth exploring. Thank you.
Wow, that was the first e-comment in a long time.
And I think from the page outside the agenda page, you can read that e-comment as well.
Great, thank you. And anybody from the public wish to speak? Great, otherwise, do I hear a motion to close out public participation?
So move.
You can
Move on.
you can proceed.
Thank you. Okay, letter I, items continued from previous agendas. Maybe this should be a referral to staff, but I know we talked about feeding and having the churches attend. Should I move that to referrals to staff and get it approved then?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. There's also an additional item for referrals to staff, which I will bring up at that time. Does anybody have any items they want to bring up from previous agendas? Seeing none, I'll proceed to J1, the Redondo Beach Police Department e-bicycle discussion. Welcome.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. My name's John Naylor. I'm a captain with the Redondo Beach Police Department, currently assigned to the Special Operations Bureau of the Police Department. And one of the units under my purview is traffic enforcement. So I bring to you tonight a presentation on our our current state of affairs with electric bikes. And in this report, I'm sorry I don't have a PowerPoint presentation for you. This kind of came almost last minute in anticipation for a discussion item with the City Council on November 1st. But prior to that, I thought it was going to be important to get this in front of the Public Safety Commission as well as our Community Engagement Board. And I'm really hoping that at the end of this discussion, we can, for my report, we can have some discussion on maybe some recommendations you guys may have moving forward that we could present to City Council. So in this report, I'll discuss kind of the history of e-bikes, the regulation, our engagement, our enforcement, some statistics, and then potentially some ideas moving forward like an ordinance and what some other cities in our region are doing. So I do have some notes and I'll go off that. And so this discussion is for possible action regarding electric bicycle enforcement and education in our city of Redondo Beach in California. So the city of Redondo Beach is as well as surrounding beach communities, attract thousands of people throughout the year who enjoy various outdoor activities, especially riding bicycles. Additionally, the city encourages bicycle riding as a form of exercise and an alternate to kind of a more environmentally friendly transportation. So since 2020, we've seen a steady increase in e-bikes in our area, in our roadways, bike lanes, bike paths, surrounding spaces. City of Redondo Beach is a very welcoming community, particularly for those who choose to utilize bicycles for exercise and transportation. Redondo Beach has implemented bicycle paths and lanes throughout the city, which connect commuters and recreationists from one part of the city to the next. Interesting, I didn't know this, but in researching for this document, I found out that in 2015, the bike path down on Harbor Drive that kind of starts at the outside of the pier, goes all the way to Redondo, was listed in LA Magazine, and it was voted number 9 out of the top 10 best bike lanes in the nation.
Yeah.
So that I didn't know that until I did some research, but that's pretty amazing. But it's kind of a testament to how the city of Redondo Beach works with bicyclists in our community. It was granted national attention at that point. So electric bikes have become more and more prevalent since 2020. Many believe that since the onset of the novel coronavirus and a push for more environmentally friendly transportation options, the electric bicycle has become more popular. Redondo Beach is now the home to storefronts, which used to sell bicycles, pedal bicycles. However, some of those businesses have closed now and have been replaced with e-bike stores. They sell solely electric bikes. Due to their ease of use and accessibility, electric bikes are used by people of all ages. Although some of the laws governing their use differ based on age, some confusion about electric bikes are compounded due to the type of electric bicycles that are available in the area and where they lawfully can be rode. So I want to go over for you the different classes of e-bikes, and there's 4 different classes of e-bikes. I'm sorry, bike paths. So we'll go over the bike paths first, and then we'll go over the classes of e-bikes. So there's 4 different types of bike paths in our city. The first one, the class 1 bike path, is separated from vehicle traffic. However, it is shared space with pedestrians. An example of a class 1 bike path is at the beach adjacent to the sand, and also at the North Redondo Beach bike path, which traverses north and south in the 2,500 blocks between Robinson and Rockefeller. Then there's a class 2 bike path. That bike lane is separated from the roadway by a painted line only, and pedestrians must stay outside of the bike lane. Examples of the class 2 bike path are on Torrance Boulevard and also Grant Avenue. Then there's a class 3 bicycle lane, which we don't have too many of those in our city. Those are bicyclists that are mixed with other vehicles. Signage may exist, however, painted lines do not delineate the lanes. An example of a class 3 bicycle lane is on the Esplanade from the 500 block to the 800 block only. And again, these paths are less frequent in our city as they offer less protection for users. And then there's class 4, which those are bicycle lanes that are paths that are separated from pedestrians and vehicles by a physical barrier. And vehicle parking is prohibited on both sides of the path. An example of a class 4 bike path is down on Harbor Drive, like I mentioned previously. Then there's 3 classes of e-bikes. This is why this whole topic gets kind of convoluted, because there's so many different types of bike paths and e-bikes. And so class 1 electric bike is a pedal-assisted bicycle which operates at slow speed. The bicycle is equipped with an electric motor, however, only will provide motorized assistance when the operator is pedaling. The class 1 electric bike will not accelerate any faster than 20 miles per hour. A class 1 electric bike may be operated on any roadway or path that a pedal bicycle can be operated on. and riders 17 years or younger must wear a helmet. Class 2 electric bicycle is equipped with a throttle to assist with pedal power. Also, the bicycle has an electric motor which can exclusively propel the bicycle without the rider having to pedal. A Class 2 electric bicycle motor will deactivate upon reaching 20 miles per hour. These electric bicycles also can be operated on the same roadway or pass as pedal bicycles, and riders 17 years or younger must wear a helmet. Then there's the Class 3 electric bicycle. The electric bike is equipped with an electric motor which assists the rider to pedal up to a speed of 28 miles per hour. The rider must pedal to utilize the electric motor. The operator of a Class 3 electric bicycle must be a minimum of 16 years of age, must wear a helmet, and cannot transport any passengers regardless of age. These electric bicycles are prohibited to be on a Class 1 bike path. And again, the Class 1 bike path is what we see down by the beach or in North Redondo bike path. All bicycles must obey the rules of the road as established in the California Vehicle Code. Some of the more common vehicle code sections that are violated and which apply to bicycles are, and I have several of them. There are several of them out there. I touched on the ones that I thought we would see most prevalent in our community. 21200A is a person riding a bicycle has all the rights and is subject to all the provisions applicable to the driver of a vehicle, including driving under the influence, which is prohibited. There's 21201 CVC, which is California Vehicle Code section. It's that proper equipment necessary to lawfully operate a bicycle. So it must have proper braking equipment, bicycle size, and proper lighting equipment and reflectors. 21202A, ride as close as practicable to the right-hand curb of the edge of the roadway. And there's a couple exceptions for that. That's when overtaking or passing another vehicle or making a left into at an intersection or into a driveway. 21204, that's riding doubles. So we see that pretty frequently. That's unlawful. An operator shall not allow a person riding as a passenger on a bicycle other than upon a separate seat, which is attached to the bike. So when we see bicycles with one long seat and there's two passengers on there, that's unlawful. Has to be two separate seats. 21650 says bicyclists must travel the same direction on the roadway as vehicles. 22450 says bicyclists must stop for posted stop signs. 27400, bicyclists may not wear a headset covering both ears. So along with those vehicle code sections, we also have several Redondo Beach Municipal Code sections which govern where you can ride a bicycle in our city. 3-1.03 says prohibited bicycle, skateboard, or roller skate riding on certain sidewalks, ramps, and parking structure areas are prohibited. These areas, such as the sidewalk along the Esplanade, require proper posting. So there is no signage on PCH, but on the Esplanade, there's signage that indicates no riding a bicycle. Therefore, if you're riding a bicycle on the Esplanade, it's unlawful. 4-35.14, that's roller skating or inline skating or bicycle riding in parks is prohibited. And then a big one is 12-2.07. That's 12-2.07. That's bicycle riding is prohibited on any portion of any pier, wharf, public area, parking structure, or city-owned property where posted. And so doing some research in the last 6 months, we've written over 50 citations down on the pier for people riding bicycles. So at this point, I'll move into some of our enforcement and our education that we've done in the past. Bicycles and motorists are generally required to share the roadway. California Vehicle Code, Redondo Beach Municipal Code provide the framework for both to safely coexist. Any violations of the codes could cause unsafe roadway conditions and will likely result in the issuance of citations. But along with enforcement, the police department continues to engage the community in an effort to educate the public regarding laws related to bicycle use. The police department posts electric signboards both in North and South Redondo Beach to remind the community to be mindful of the rules of the road, such as to stop at all posted stop signs. School resource officers work collaboratively with the Redondo Union High School students to make a video which was posted to YouTube. The video describes electric bike and pedal bike rules of the road. Additionally, officers have disseminated educational material to students regarding bicycle safety. A sign with bicycle safety tips has also been posted in the bicycle rack at the Redondo Union High School campus. The police department recently applied for and later received a grant in the amount of $150,000 from the Office of Traffic Safety. City Council recently appropriated the grant funds to the fiscal year 22-23 operating budget. This funding will assist in paying police officers to, amongst other details, conduct bicycle enforcement and education. Police officers will have conducted two community meetings by the time this November 1st presentation will happen. The first one was last week at Alta Vista School, and there's another one on the 18th, which will be at Anderson Park at 6 p.m., and we encourage people to come to that. That's their opportunity to meet with people from our community services unit and our traffic enforcement people to talk specifically about e-bike strategies in Redondo Beach. It's also important to recognize that I've come here tonight to speak with the Public Safety Commission, like I said, to gain some sort of recommendations from you all on moving forward with any kind of action related to e-bike enforcement education as well. And then on the 24th of October, I will be giving a presentation to our Community Engagement Board and asking for them to also provide some sort of recommendations of what they would like to see moving forward as far as enforcement education, possibly an ordinance related to e-bikes, e-bike safety. Informational bulletins are regularly distributed to our community about bicycle safety through our Neighborhood Watch program. And then we conduct regular press releases to the media so we can kind of reach a broader group of people. Previously using grant funding, Redondo Beach police officers conducted bike educational rodeos in all the middle schools and elementary schools in the district. Personnel at the rodeos taught bicycle safety to students and provided safety inspections of bicycles. Also, helmets were provided to those who were in need, and this was done at no cost. Since 2020, 501 bicycle enforcement stops were made in the city. As a result of those enforcement stops, 221 citations were issued. During the same time period, 139 collisions involving bicycles have been reported. Our records management system is not capable of providing specific information between pedal bicycle and electric bikes. So I can't kind of narrow down that information for you as to what citations, what collisions were specifically to pedal bikes or e-bikes. We just know that they're bicycle related.
Not enough of a sample size?
No, the records management system won't allow us to input that data.
Oh, based on the software.
Correct. So we can't describe it as either an e-bike or we might get there soon, but as of now we're not. And we did just switch over to a new records management system several months ago, so we're still working out some of the bugs.
Okay.
Presently, the city of Hermosa Beach has a city ordinance related to electric bicycle use. The ordinance prohibits an electric bicycle from being utilized under power on the bicycle path that's in Hermosa Beach. The ordinance does not address any other portion of the city of Hermosa Beach. The cities of Torrance, Palos Verdes, Manhattan Beach, and El Segundo do not have any city ordinances in place to regulate e-bike usage. Bicyclists are required to follow traffic laws as they pertain to bicycle operations. Drafting an ordinance to establish more restrictive guidelines on the use of electric bikes may encourage more rider safety, especially in specified areas. For instance, an ordinance may prohibit electric bicycles in certain areas, such as school zones during school hours, and or certain class bike paths. An ordinance could also regulate the speed in which a rider may ride an electric bike in certain areas, such as shopping districts, bike paths, or school zones. An ordinance may also reinforce existing law, such as prohibiting juveniles from riding an electric bicycle without a helmet or after 10 o'clock at night. The city of Redondo Beach has been instrumental in developing a culture of bicycle riding in the community to both enhance ways to exercise and as a mode of clean transportation. While the police department and other city staff have provided a robust response to bicycle safety, the surge of electric bicycle use in the city of Redondo Beach may require the police department to alter its response in education, engagement, and enforcement. And so that's my presentation this evening. And essentially what I was hoping to do is get across to you our current state of affairs with e-bikes, what we've done in the past as far as education, what we've done in the past as far as enforcement, and then kind of give you an overview of what other cities are doing related to this issue. So I'm hoping that at this point, if you have any questions, I can answer those. We can have some sort of discussion about maybe some recommendations I can take back to also add to this report to give to City Council on November 1st.
Any questions, team?
Well, I have to say that Commissioner Hannon, I look forward, as you have far more expertise in this arena. I do have some questions, obviously, but I don't want to go into a place where I'm losing track of what we're supposed to be talking about. For instance, you've got class 1, class 2, and class 3. I'm more on the lines of when things are a privilege and not a basic human right. So I don't know why in a class 2 or class 3 that somebody has a throttle with an electric motor, 17 years old with a helmet, class 3 electric motor, 28 miles per hour with a helmet. Why isn't anybody and everybody from 17 under just a class 1 where you can pedal that it's 20 miles per hour and you have to wear a helmet?
So you actually do, if you're 17 and under, you have to wear a helmet, whether on a pedal bicycle or an electric bicycle, regardless of what class.
But my question is on the electric, fully electric, class 2 and class 3, one has the throttle and electric motor, class 3 electric motor and 28 miles per hour. Why is that even an option for somebody that's 16 or 17 years old to have? I'm just looking for why somebody under 17 isn't just restricted to a pedal that possibly can go 20 miles per hour.
Right. Yeah, I wish I had that answer for you.
I mean, a state
I
level
imagine that you
law.
will.
Yeah, it's not, well, I think on the class 3, you have to be 16 years minimum age to ride the class 3. That's the one that provides power while you're pedaling, but goes up to 28 miles an hour. So I believe on that one, you have to be a minimum of 16 years of age. And then class 1 and class 2, if you could ride a bike, you could ride those.
I had a question.
Yes, sir.
So when it comes to stolen and recovered, I think we see these bikes obviously proliferate themselves throughout the community, making sure that the individuals, young or old, how do we maintain a safe and secure riding experience when it comes to the bikes that we allow in the community? What do you feel has been best practices in that, the last, I would say, 2 or 3 years when we see these bikes, are we able to make them safe for the young people?
Make them safe in terms of how they ride them or getting them stolen?
Yeah, how they ride them, how they access them. Yeah.
That's, I think that's it's a great question. And so I think the key may be continuing kind of a balanced approach where we do education, community engagement, and then heavy enforcement as well.
Would we enforce e-bike violations in school and peer and other zones similar to motorcycle riders? Or do they have a more severe code for folks that ride motorcycles in strange places? Or are they prosecuted, like how much is a citation? Is it $50 and maybe a trip to the court, or what's the
It
thought?
depends on the violation, but I don't know all the exact pricing these days, but it's more than, I would venture a guess that it's more than $50. It's probably in the couple $100.
Yeah.
Depending on what you do. But if failing to stop at a stop sign is a moving violation. So it would be the same section for you, Chairman Gall, if you ran a stop sign and got pulled over on your way home in your car. Yeah, it would be the same section that we would cite for. Some different ways to cite would be like the municipal code. So if you're riding a bicycle on the pier, that's a Redondo Beach Municipal Code section violation. And that fine would probably be significantly less than a moving California Vehicle Code violation.
So we would want to make the e-bike penalty equivalent to an actual vehicle or a motorcycle and not a bicycle, so that the person would have some incentive not to violate the law, I would guess, because it's a more dangerous vehicle to be using than a bicycle, is my...
Well, I see the citation process as kind of an educational reminder. Yeah, there is punitive side to it as well, but it's an opportunity for some conversation about it. Then there is a punitive side to it where you are going to get a fine. So I think in totality, it kind of lends itself to be something that could be positive first time around. Therefore, if you're riding a bicycle and you are cited on the pier, yes, it may not be as much as a vehicle code violation, but I don't know that the punitive portion of it is as important.
As
solely.
the conversation that you have to... get
Yeah,
them to
I
stop
think it's
doing it.
important. But I think that the consequences are important, but also the initial engagement.
Okay, very good.
Everybody keeps looking at me, so I got to say something here. No, thank you for, I think you did a pretty good job explaining that, because it's very complex. It's
Yeah,
very
thank you.
confusing, and a lot of people still to this day think there are different rules if you ride a bike versus driving a vehicle. And the fact is they're both vehicles. One is considered a slow-moving vehicles by DMV,
Right.
DMV, but they're both vehicles, and you pretty much have the same rights and obligations on both sides, with a few exceptions. But one of the things that, I've noticed, I'm an educator myself. I've been teaching bicycle education for about 30 years now, from a performance standpoint down to school instructors. So, one of the things I've always felt that there's never enough education for people that ride bicycles. There just are not. And what happens is, maybe when I was a child, I remember the police department, they would have their bike rodeos and we'd all line up and at least learn how to balance the bike. But nowadays there is no place that people can get an education unless the school provides it, which we did for 4 or 5 years until COVID. And now, since COVID, it's interesting what happened is that the number of cyclists increased immensely. The number of people riding pedal bikes increased 200 or 300% over a 3-year period. And the people that are riding e-bikes or e-devices, they were way up. But the fact is their starting point was lower too. So it seems like, we talk about them more than we talk about pedal bikes, but the reality is they're a problem. And both bikes, and because there's no other education, people learn to ride a bike looking around and seeing the people around them. They learn from each other. There's no school now that's implemented bicycle education in the school itself. I know you said you had, the police department is providing 2 classes. I was curious to see how many people were showing up. At least the first class. I know you have another one coming up, I think, next week.
Yeah, so, sorry about that confusion. So it's not a class. It's just a community community meeting regarding e-bikes and their use. Again, in preparation for our November 1st discussion with City Council.
Well, I really hope it considers going back. We started a diversion program in Redondo Beach. It was one of the first cities in California that allowed this in 2016, which meant that what would happen is, for the first time ever, cyclists had the same option as motorists. Because if you get a traffic ticket from driving a motorized vehicle and you haven't had one for a few years, you can go in and take a class, right? A traffic school class. You pay to take that, and it's removed from your record. So Redondo Beach was one of the first cities in California that implemented this too in 1916. Now here it is. Worked for about 5 years. We had well over 200 people took these classes, and it's gone. And so there is no education right now. I mean, if you were a parent and you had a child, and what often happens, by the way, people I've interviewed, the parents are rebuying the kids' e-bikes because that means they don't have to drive their kids to school and the games and all the sports events. Kids can be more independent, which, might be good. But certainly they're reducing their car trips, they're reducing the emissions. It just seems like a good idea. And if there was a way to educate the kids before they buy it, it would even be a better idea. Unfortunately, there are no classes available. So the kids buy an e-bike and they watch other kids and they learn from what they're doing. Unfortunately, we have a lot of bad behavior out there, and it really is growing, not shrinking. And I know, citations are a form of education. There's no doubt about it. I mean, if you have to pay, if you're a parent, you have to pay $250 for a child running a red or a stop sign, that's pretty severe. But at the same time, if there's no education, that's like, spanking your child and rather than tell your child what they did wrong. I mean, in my mind, as a parent, as a grandparent, and a great-grandparent, I want that child to understand the rules of the road and logically know why they're there, not just receive a citation. Anyway, where I'm going with this is I think that Redondo Beach should consider starting up the diversion program again, the traffic school. I mean, the people that I talked to after that was going, even some of the police department, they said that they felt that there was much better behavior out there as a result of that. And I'd like to see it started again.
Yeah, so what Commissioner Hannon is talking about is a diversion program where if a bicyclist was cited for a violation, they had the opportunity to do diversion. And so it was handled through South Bay Court down in Torrance. And so if the bicyclist completed a traffic course, then the citation was removed. It was diverted. It was removed off of their record. I think it's a great idea, and I think that's what I want to get from this commission are those types of ideas. We're now I can include that into my report as one of the ideas that because that works towards the balance of what we're doing with enforcement. The diversion fits into the educational component of that. So, and I think it's a great idea. This, and also you may want to come. Obviously, any of the commissioners can come to the council meeting and also reiterate that it's a great idea for something that we did in the past. It was great until COVID hit. Then it was removed from the courts, but something that maybe the council can direct us to do.
What years was that program?
Well, it was the last bill that Brown passed as he exited out of California, but it was 2015. It went into effect. I think it was January 2016 actually, and then there were very few municipalities in California that took advantage of this, but prior police chief embraced it, and I think it really worked out well.
And we had I don't think he was a commissioner, might have been a referee in the traffic court at the time that also embraced it. And that's kind of why it moved forward so well. But yeah, I remember distinctly when it started, and then right about when COVID started is when it stopped. So,
Commissioner Fox, he was the one that
Commissioner Fox.
made a bold move and implemented this, which
Yeah.
Carmichael, I think he's a current judge, and I know I talked to Mike Webb about this about 5 weeks ago, and Mike was going to call a meeting with the Judge Carmichael and see if we couldn't reinstitute that, but I've not heard anything about it.
So I have that written down in my notes, and that's something that we could collaborate with the city attorney's office on if we're given that direction. But I can bring it up and put it into my presentation as well.
I really think it would be helpful. Also, the South Bay Bicycling and a coalition, they're getting ready to launch their education program online, and it might be, might be a good way to help circulate this, because what we're trying to do, we're going out, passing out cards at all the bike shops, and all the bike shops sell e-bikes, and with a QR code on that they can take a picture of, it takes you right to this website. You can see videos, you can see all the latest information. And it does do a pretty good job sorting this out. And like you said, and I said, it was very confusing when we go into the law and try to figure this out. And if you're a child of 15, 16 years old, you're not going to get it. So I think this would help anyway. And if you want to help get the word out on that, that would certainly be good.
I had one comment from a professor from USC who was a member of Mettrans. And he said that there's some sort of electrical or electronic devices that automatically slow e-bikes down to a certain speed. And I don't know cost benefit of that, but if there were certain points like on the beach and so forth, or near school zones where you could take those class 3 bikes and have those little sensors or devices put into like the signage and stuff around the streets and slow them down below 20 miles an hour. That was something that was brought up from a conversation I had, and I can forward the professor's email contact, but it's Mettrans, and it's a network of professors and academics that advise on public transportation. So that was another thought.
There's a lot of technology going on right now. If you're renting a bike or a scooter, you can actually, they can program them so they can get to the, if they're good in Santa Monica, they can actually shut them off when they get to Venice if they cross the border.
Yeah, they can shut them
Plus,
off.
they can reduce the speed, plus the fact that if they were to collide with anybody, they can pinpoint exactly when that happened and get the timestamp and everything else. So there's a lot of automation going on out there. But what we're talking about here is very personal e-devices. We're not talking about something you rent. I don't think Redondo Beach allows that right now. So it is a little different situation.
Yeah, correct.
But technology-wise, I think there is some relief possibly on this, but there's a lot of legislation right now moving through California, very slow, that's supposed to help with some of this. But anyway, thank you. I'm going.
I'd like to ask you another question, if I may, because I think that in this arena, these are all good questions, and this is good to get this out here, but I think you're going to have a far more difficult time when you go in front of city council, because they're probably going to be, it's going to be packed. And I think that people feel strongly about this. So my question is, what about licensing? Where do we stand with, is this something that, I don't even know because I don't have children. Can you tie it into driver's ed at the high school? Where do we stand with the questions that people are going to ask you on November 1, which is more hardcore than theory? They're going to want answers from you, and they're going to know, do you have to be licensed? Should you be? How is it that someone that's 17 has access to something with an electric motor that can go 28 miles per hour, and all the only requirement is that you wear a helmet? Or you're going to face a lot more difficult than we have to offer.
Almost a conversation with the school board to see what they're going to do to educate the kids in Redondo to ride safely. It's actually a very good point.
So at this point, that's a legislature's issue. It's a vehicle code state law.
So the way it's set up currently, these three classes, this is how this exists in
That's
the state of California, the county of Los Angeles, and then Redondo Beach.
So the way to combat that would be, we have the ability here in Redondo Beach to enact a Redondo Beach city ordinance. For instance, we have an ordinance that says, after 10 p.m., essentially, kids will be indoors. Right? Late night, an evening curfew. So city ordinance, if it's drafted by city attorney's office and approved by city council, we could be more restrictive than California Vehicle Code. So, I mean, in theory, you could, could make an ordinance that said all those things that you just said. You have to be, in the city of Redondo Beach, you have to be at least X amount of years old to ride an e-bike. I don't know that, anybody would go for that.
I don't know if that's practical.
And I don't know if
I
it's
just want to throw
enforceable
out as
either.
many things as that you might hear
Yeah.
when you go up in front of city council.
Yeah, because we have to also keep in mind that, you don't want to put an ordinance into place that we can't enforce.
Exactly.
Right, so we would, is it best to have police officers out there with their laser, lasering speed on a bicyclist? I don't know, probably not. So whatever the ordinance is, if there is an ordinance, we'd have to make sure that it's something that the police officer would be able to investigate and enforce.
That's good. I think what we have is a good policy, is understanding what the policy is. And so my question would be, how are you educating, or how is the police educating our local citizens about how we see this particular issue in this present day, if that makes sense? It's just, I think that, I live in this city and I love the city. I think that the proliferation of several different aspects of how we are being transported changed. It's changed a lot over the last couple of years. So I just want to kind of understand how you see it, how we can help educate, how we can help our community when it comes to e-bikes, and what's the best way to really, spread the message on how we discuss this issue moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you what we currently do. I mentioned that we do press releases, we do community meetings, we come to the Public Safety Commission, we go before the City Council, we work with the high school in the district, lots of social media. So on our Instagram or our Facebook, you'll see postings about it. So those types of things is how we can kind of reach out to the masses. And so then also, like I mentioned, enforcement is a bit of education as well.
Is it also on Redondo TV, any information sessions on e-bikes and so forth marketed through the Redondo TV?
Yeah, I don't think that it is at this point, but that's something we can do.
Yeah.
As well as on the city website.
Yep,
Yeah.
great.
I just want to champion your efforts here. I know this is a tough area, so thank you so much.
We'll have to tell Mike Wadzanski about the website and try to tie that in as he develops the website. But yeah, it's definitely a lot of different components to this for sure.
I just had one more comment. I know we talked a little bit about sidewalk riding in Redondo Beach. They have their own code on that. I think it was written in 1957 or something, and then updated in 1977. best of my knowledge, it hasn't been touched since that date. And the problem is, with the e-bikes out there, and there's nothing to prevent them from riding an e-bike on the road or on the sidewalk if it's not prohibited. And most sidewalks don't have a sign prohibiting it. So what's happening and what we're hearing is a tremendous amount of people that are handicapped, elderly, walkers, being intimidated by people that are passing them at 25 miles an hour on an e-bike, and they're in a walker. I mean, they feel very vulnerable, and as they should. And I think that we need to look at that sidewalk riding rule and update it to today's technology. And I know the South Bay Coalition manages about 7 or 14 cities in the South Bay. And I've heard the biggest complaints are the ones in the 3 beach cities because they're the ones that primarily have the e-bikes.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of complaints out there, especially with seniors.
Like Artesian, Slauson, or Harper on that border of Hermosa Beach, just people just jamming along and like, hey, watch where you're going.
I'll add that as a recommendation. Because you're right. Now, it's one thing to have bicycles pedaling on the sidewalk, but now they're going 28 miles an hour on the sidewalk. So, yeah, I'm going to add that for city council discussion.
Thank you.
That was very good.
I wish I were going to be there for it, but I won't be in town.
You can always put an e-comment in there.
I will. But anyway.
Did anybody from the public want to comment on this? Are they okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Come right up to the podium.
You get 3 minutes.
I'm Robert Fuentes, MD. I'm a retired internal medicine specialist. I've lived in Redondo Beach for 3 years, and I ride my bike roughly 3 times a week on the Strand, all the way up as far as El Segundo at times, at least 12 miles on the Strand. It's been a nightmare to ride my bike on the Strand because of the electric bikes. You're talking about children riding bikes. The child's brain isn't fully mature neurologically, there's no comparison with an adult, just on a neurologic basis, and not even talking about cognitively. So I think you're talking about the reality as it is today, but in my opinion, it shouldn't be permitted to allow children to ride electric bikes. I think there should definitely be testing the way people have to pass a driver's test to ride an e-bike, and that goes for any age. And I think the age to ride an electric bike could be maybe 25 or 30. By that time, the human brain is pretty mature, and we're not doing anybody any favor. Just ask yourself, what is the benefit for a child or a young adult to ride an electric bike? The parent wants them to get to school without having to drive them themselves. They can ride their old-fashioned bicycle and get there just the same. I don't know how much time I have left, but you're going to make a lot of e-bike store owners unhappy, and a lot of parents who spend thousands of dollars giving their kids bikes unhappy. They can't ride them in Redondo Beach, but you're going to be setting a very good example, I think, for California. We have the children's interests at heart, and frankly, aesthetically, I can't stand riding with e-bikes. Surfers have their surfboard attached to the e-bike and they're tooling around. I love them to go surfing, but why have the bike on 20 miles an hour on a surfboard on a bike for 20 miles an hour? It's crazy. It really is. I've seen men riding with 2 to 3 year olds sitting in front of them, going more than 20 miles an hour. No helmets on the kids. There's no enforcement. Hermosa Beach, that's where you see most of the e-bikes, and I haven't ever seen any enforcement. enforcement is the last resort. I think you have to craft a reasonable law, explain to the public why, and frankly, all this, nitpicking, how are we going to teach the kids in school to
3
ride an
minutes.
electric bike? That's a useless question, I think. Guess my time's up?
No, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We had good public comment.
It's first time in a while.
Yeah, it's first time in a while. I'll drink to that. Thank you.
Monster.
Let's see, we're going to J2, or motion to close J1?
You can proceed. You don't
Thank
need
you.
a motion to move
J2.
on.
Chief Yang, come on now. Great. Thanks, John.
I got it.
John, and thank you very much with all your hard work for the drone, with the drone unit as well.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, John.
Commissioners, how are you doing tonight? Isaac Yang, Redondo Beach Fire Department Division Chief, currently Fire Marshal, Fire Prevention Division, and Community Engagement. Apologies for my absence last meeting just after Beach Life. Let me get you caught up real quick there. For Beach Life, we ran 14 runs over the 3 days. 6 people were transported to local hospitals. Non-life-threatening injuries are conditions, so we're optimistic that all those that were transported were released and are now healthy and good to go with life as we know it. The last couple quarters, we deployed our auto pulses 10 times for those patients that were able to be beneficiaries of that piece of apparatus. We did capture return of spontaneous circulation 100% on every viable patient that was able to be benefited by that piece of equipment. One extremely extraordinary circumstance, we did have a 15-year-old patient that did experience a sudden cardiac arrest. It is great to report that that young person has recovered completely, is doing very well, no deficits, and is back with family and doing great. So that is an extraordinary case to be able to report to you. Relative to the fire department and our call volumes in totality, we're at this point in the year usually hovering around like 5,700 calls. We are this year at this point in time over 6,300. We ended last year at about 7,400 runs. We are pacing for 2022 to end at about 8,000. So that is a very significant trend upwards, because typically we're seeing about 150, 200 call volume increase annually. And we are looking at the 500 to 600 range this year moving forward. So your firefighters are working very hard to keep the service up, to be able to be operationally competent and sound. And in so doing, we look forward to answering the call for service anytime the bell rings. Relative to training and opportunities to kind of expand our service, a couple of great things. So Chief Butler, who is our new chief from Los Angeles City Fire Department, retired, has been doing a great job acclimating, getting settled in. He recently headed up a regional training for the fire service in totality. Over the course of 3 days last week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, he gave deliveries on command and control with a fellow retired chief from LA City, Joe Castro. They trained nearly 500 firefighters last week, all throughout the area, LA County in total, to include other counties with visiting officers. It was a very significant impact that chief was able to make on the fire service at large. So that took place at the Performing Arts Center. It was very well received. Additionally, we have expanded our brush fire response profile. We have about nearly a half dozen members who are now certified and equipped as fire line paramedics, and they will be able to go out as single overhead resources to be able to provide advanced life support services to firefighters that are out on the line fighting brush fires during, as we know, the ever prolonged brush fire season. If I haven't shared with you already, the fire department also has 2 support canines that do a great job. Ember lives in the south end of town at Station 1. Pele lives up at the north end over at Station 2. Both of our dogs and their respective handlers captured AKC certifications for good canine citizenship and have been certified for use in the urban setting to be support canines for not only first responders, but also the community at large. So that is something we're very proud of, and we're looking to expand that program. As far as community outreach and engagement, we have beta tested a program called Wellness Wednesdays in collaboration with Beach Cities Health District and Community Services. That program centers around engagement in a non-emergency setting with the senior adult population. We did pilot our program with Casa de los Amigos and basically engage the community there with what's called an envelope for life. We were able to capture medical history, allergies to medications prescribed by a physician, other elements of their health and well-being that they're able to record and then post up in their living space. So in the case of an emergency response, we're able to capture that data immediately and then move forward with the emergency treatment in a more expeditious manner. So we were able to do that. Certainly, we were able to capture vital signs and do welfare checks. We were able to do blood pressure checks, things of that nature. We introduced them to our support canines, which is very well received. And then secondary to the engagement with the fire department, Beach Cities Health District sponsored a Tai Chi class in their community room. So the whole, in totality, was a 3-hour engagement. It was very well received to the point where we're getting together with community services now also, and we're going to launch another Wellness Wednesday, not at a private facility, but at the Perry Park Senior Center. And that is going to be scheduled for the 3-way collaboration with Beach Cities Community Services here in Redondo, as well as the fire department. So the goal is to be able to work through all of the senior centers, Veterans Park, Perry Park, and Anderson, and also at our senior living complexes throughout the city. So that is one portion of the demographic of our city. Working also with Beach Cities Health District as they have a grand opening set up for tomorrow with their teen alcove, which is basically over at the 514 North Prospect facility. It's just a collection point for school-age kids, as well as our older school-age high school kids and into the younger 20s to be able to gather, have a productive space where they can collect, come together, have community, training, resources. And we've been working with Beach Cities to be able to share that space with them as a fire department engagement opportunity to interact with the youth of the community, answer their questions, maybe do some engagement in terms of like talking about our Explorer program for possible professional development in the fire service, specifically with Captain Kenny Campos, who is the program coordinator up at Fire Station 2. So those are all things that we're very excited about. To follow up with you about something we talked about a couple of meetings ago, partnering with our neurological specialists in the clinical setting. I have had conversations with Little Company of Mary talking about exploration of platforms for communication from field to the clinical space. Those conversations and explorations are ongoing. So fire department's been busy doing a whole bunch of different things and a whole bunch of different disciplines, but more than happy to take any questions you may have now regarding anything I've mentioned or anything you might have questions about in general.
Commissioner Gittens?
Yeah, I just had a question in regards to kind of where we touched on previously with respect to our homeless population. I know that you've done a lot in this space, and you know the work that we discussed earlier. Just wanted to know where you see the space growing, if there are opportunities for this commission to really put a light on, you know, some of the wonderful work that you do in this space, and then are there things that we can do to support you and your team, your staff, to kind of continue to be a light. I think that you know, I read a recent report that Redondo Beach was over-indexing in our homeless population support here in Redondo Beach. So just wanted to say that kudos to our team, and how do we, you know, continue to support you in that effort?
Sure. I think anytime that we're able to engage in exchanging ideas, brainstorm, because ultimately, right, the more of us that are putting our minds together for productive solutions is always a benefit. Lila Omura has been incredible in her capacity as the housing navigator. We've been able to work with her. From the fire department side, we work more towards the opportunity to immediately house folks. There was an instance where we were able to identify an unhoused person who was in need. She probably had some stability issues with the psycho-emotional, which is not an uncommon situation. We reached out to Lila. She was immediately responsive at a very early hour in the morning, and was able to reunite this person with her family, like that day, which is an astounding result in a very spontaneous moment of opportunity. On the fire side, we're able to follow up with social work entities at the hospital, because when we engage with those folks, we're able to follow up because we're the ones transporting to the hospital, so we can be the direct liaison at the receiving facility at the clinical space. Those things being said, we are working with Harbor General Hospital to be able to coordinate Ms. Omura with their resource staff to be able to work together towards possibly looking at transportation to Harbor for the sake of not only the immediate medical care, but also the resource link to be able to move people into productive spaces for their safety and well-being. So that is kind of on the move right now. That was a very spontaneous network ability to hook in with Harbor General, and really it wasn't even their ER staff, because it's an administrative group and resource that we're able to tap into. So we're in the process of doing that. Working with the local facilities, I know Chairperson Gall has been very active creating a network of conversation. So that in and of itself, that advocacy, effort, energy, persistence has also been, certainly from this group in totality, has been huge. So if you have any ideas, any resource touches, or any kind of inclination to put something out there that we could explore, absolutely, we'd be more than happy to jump on that. So everything you've done thus far, even just sitting and having this conversation, evolving it from just me rattling off run totals, has been a great opportunity to kind of share ideas. So I appreciate that.
It makes it a lot more fun. Is Harbor General, is that Harbor UCLA?
Yes, sir.
I've had a conversation with the COO there and trying to link up the social work component with the police department and the navigator and the fire department. For me, this is a joy of volunteer work, and I don't want to impede on approval processes to get people scheduled in from the police department and get them linked with navigator and fire department and be a pain in the neck. But I would say that I'm having a bit of a challenge in getting the police and the navigator and perhaps the fire department in to speak with Shauna and also to speak with Providence. Those are my two goals, and I want to try to get them addressed. And I think Shauna mentioned an availability on October 27th. And I think Providence mentioned like Wednesday afternoons in general, but maybe we can tighten this up and try to get the 2 or 3 entities to meet with each of those hospitals, maybe before Thanksgiving. And that would be my next goal, and I'd be glad to add on any more to that, deliverables to get done. But if anybody wants to join the call, glad to have you on board.
Happy to do that, Commissioner.
Great, sounds good. Chief Yang, do you have anything to add?
Specific to the topic at hand or just in general?
Either or.
I am really looking forward to the next bike rodeo. I'm ready. I'm ready for that obstacle course. I've been practicing. It'll be good. We're looking forward to that for sure. Let us know. We'll be happy to be in crews down there, participate with the youth, get on bikes and make it happen for sure. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you for your assistance and
Yes, sir.
years of helping the kids
Absolutely.
learn new experiences and be
Yeah.
safe. Thank you.
Yeah, fire department, we are certainly at your disposal. This group is certainly welcome to come by the stations at any time for engagement, tours, whatever. Our door is always open. Certainly is. Okay?
Let me ask you a question real quick,
sir.
if I may. How many Firebase calls have we had so far this month of October?
So you're talking about structure fire specifically. So we've had only a few small structure fires contained to room and contents. Haven't gotten into like any structural space. So in that respect, it unfortunately yields property loss, but there haven't been any resident or business or recreational injuries to people. So to that effect, our crews do a very good job of a rapid response and very efficient, competent deployments of mitigative actions. So small flames, small fires, stay small.
Good.
Thanks for the update, and thanks for all your hard work as always.
Yes, sir.
Good. Thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
And prosecutor's office is not here, but they were great in the last meeting, and look forward to continue working with them as well. Let's go to J4. Go ahead there, Officer Lostrom.
In the agenda, you'll find the Part 1 crime report, which includes 4 robberies, 8 burglaries, and that's residential or commercial, 14 theft from motor vehicle incidents, 2 automobile burglaries, and 6 stolen vehicles. And just to clarify, the difference between a theft from a motor vehicle and an auto burglary involves if the vehicle is locked or not. So typically, an auto burglary involves some sort of forced entry, or the vehicle is locked and they subverted the lock system by some means. Sometimes it's an open sunroof, and sometimes it's and they can unlock the car and get in. That's still an auto burglary. And sometimes they punch a lock with a tool. Any questions regarding the crime recap?
I have a question, if I may,
Yes.
because I won't be allowed to return home this evening if I don't ask you this question. So last week, apparently, in the Village complex over here, buildings 610 through 660, there were several vehicle break-ins with, and that's cool that you pointed out there's 2 different ways to look at if a vehicle is left unlocked, that's one classification, and if it's actually broken into is another. But do you have any updates on specifically the Village regarding theft? It was last Tuesday, I believe.
I couldn't give out any specific information regarding like any investigation they're doing on that, just from a confidentiality standpoint. But that's typically those high rises, the Village and the high rises on the Esplanade, you're typically going to see that targeted, which is the underground parking structures that they gain access to. There is a third, either second or third degree of burglary that involves entering a garage like that to commit crime. So there is a higher level of crime involved in that particular type of theft from a motor vehicle. So although theft from a motor vehicle might be a misdemeanor incident if it happens within a locked garage that would qualify from the district attorney's standpoint, they can still be charged with a burglary. But that's typically going to be your main issue. So we always just recommend cameras, not leaving things in your car, even if you're in there, and then not storing things like expensive bicycles or other things. They typically sometimes have storage at each parking spot, and people will store stuff in there and not put a lock on it, or put a lock that's easy to cut. They have locks that are designed for that you can't get bolt cutters into. But we're always out looking for those, especially in the middle of the night.
Well, thank you very much, because we had plenty of footage and it looked like it was something that was in operation between midnight and 4 a.m.
Yep.
over the series of 5 or 6 different buildings. So thank you very much for being up on that, and I'll continue to pursue because I'm the de facto go-to on, okay, what's going on? Can you speak with, and is there anyone in the department that may offer, or is there a professional service if you could do a risk assessment, or how to better improve the security of a place like that?
The community services unit, myself in particular, I've been trained in what they call the National Institute of Crime Prevention's crime prevention through environmental design. So using those principles, we have a public free security assessment program where we do something like that. Usually involves action for a place like that. Usually involves action by the board. Just from a liability standpoint, if one individual resident was like, "Here's what my apartment looks like. Can you tell me how I can make it safer?" I would do it that way also. But for a large building like that, just with the amount of work that's involved, it's pretty significant.
Sure.
Take a couple hours to walk through and look at all the different vantage points, and it usually takes somebody who has some level of access to the whole building, which is obviously usually related to a homeowners association or board of some kind. So
I'll work on that on my end.
yeah, and then usually, I'm not trying to say that's like a ton of red tape. They're usually pretty open to it, but I do that as part of.
I think they're more open to it now than they were this time last week. So thank you very much.
Commissioner Gittens?
Can I ask a question? Yes, I think that's an amazing assessment. I just want to ask, how do you, with the holidays coming up, right? Obviously, maybe a proliferation of, bad actors at some point, for a city. What do we do best practice wise to try to make sure that we're all safe?
Through the normal kind of community engagement channels that we have, like Neighborhood Watch, press release, media, social media, stuff like that. We revisit all the typical topics that you get during the holidays. People leaving expensive things in their car, credit card fraud, scams, a lot of scams around the holidays, stuff like that. And we hit, educationally speaking from our unit, we hit on all those topics. And then obviously any type of call for service action that happens in the field. You have our patrol officers responding who are very aware of the trends that come with holiday times.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's important for the record that we kind of acknowledge the time that we're going to be in for the next 2 months. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Commissioner. Thank you.
You're talking about the travel?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's helpful.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like when you can tell the police when you're not going to be home, so the volunteers and policing kind of look to make sure you don't. It's a helpful tool. I like that one as well.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Officer Lostrom? Are we all good? Great. Let's go on to J5 and J6. Community policing events and volunteers and policing reports.
All right. For community policing, this list is typically a longer discussion, but it'll be shorter because we're going month to month now. So the ones that we got done were the school resource officers have conducted run, hide, fight training with all the schools, all the way down to I only have middle school and high school on here, I think, but all the way down to the elementary schools. We participated in a Redondo Beach Library reading program where the police department came in and read to an after-school program that meets at the main library. We had the first of two e-bicycle community meetings. We had an attendance of about 10 or 15 folks who asked questions. We typically tell people what we are doing, what we've already done, what we are doing, and what we plan to do, and what we anticipate doing given a number of hypothetical outcomes with legislation and such. And lastly, we had National Coffee with a Cop Day on October 5th. And we had two pop-up locations, one on the North Bike Path and one on the south, on the Esplanade down in the south end. Upcoming events, we have the second of our e-bike community meetings, and that's October 18th at 6 p.m. at Anderson Park. Halloween movie night is Friday night. That's a pretty big one for us because we get to wear costumes. And we had a good turnout last year, and we look forward to continuing to do that. The domestic violence Candlelight Vigil is at the front of the station on October 22nd at 7 p.m. That program is huge for us, and in my experience in law enforcement, I haven't seen anything like it anywhere else. So if you'd like to come out and support that, it's a pretty big deal. And we have the drug take back, which is going to happen on the 29th, and that's national. But we are a participating location at the Vincent Annex there on October 29th from 10 to 2. And then Homeless Court returns to our Vincent Annex on November 16th. And that does it for that.
I don't mean to be facetious, but with the drug take back, is there a lot of fentanyl and things like that and meth that's picked up, or is it just more prescription type stuff?
Typically, it's old prescription drugs.
Okay.
And there's legitimate prescriptions of fentanyl out there, so
Yeah.
I'm sure at some point they get turned in. I don't inspect, a lot of people come in with a big old bag.
Right.
And it goes in the big container. We're not looking at every
Yeah.
single individual thing. It's kind of a no questions asked thing to encourage
Yeah.
Put it in the
participation.
amnesty box.
So I couldn't tell you specific. I mean, people come and drop off old Advil even too. So
Jeez, wow.
sorry. So that concludes the community policing report. If you'd like to proceed.
Then go to J6.
G6?
Right now, as of for September 2022, they did 326 hours of service. The year to date is upwards near 3,000. And I would just like to point out again, one more time, I know I've beat this to death, but the three new categories which have gotten a significant amount of hours is the cold cases, the administrative, which usually helps our records division, and crime analysis. And that concludes that.
The cold cases group is awesome. I remember that banquet story they did a couple years ago. It's quite lengthy. Referrals to staff.
Current referrals I have were the Project Home Key, which they had a scheduling conflict.
Okay.
But that's on the agenda for November as of this time.
Okay.
And then I still have on the list to schedule out, probably on the following agenda for December, the member of the school district, and it was typically regarding the topic of active shooter, red flag laws and stuff. And I have that contact that you emailed me to schedule for that.
Contact was that? Is that Tom Osborne?
No, it was a woman from the school district. I wanna
Oh,
say.
yes.
There was a V in her name.
Veal.
I have that, Veal. There you go.
Veal. I think Dr. Toronto introduced me to her. And let me, before I add anything to that, I wanted to go with the Commissioner Marinelli to add any referrals to staff or any future panelists or meetings or things like that.
So I apologize that I don't remember when we might speak with our local churches regarding,
Yeah.
because we had that in place, but then when the
Yeah.
meetings went live from Zoom, that kind of fell by the wayside.
Yeah.
But I know they had both agreed, the Methodist Church and St. James Our Church, they'd agreed
And the
to.
other one, yes, St. Andrews.
The September meeting voted on home key. I think they were all unanimous. Home key, e-bike, and the school district regarding active shooter type related topics.
But we could, then after the new year, we could get into that one then.
Let's, can we make a motion to discuss the feeding with the three churches for our December meeting? Maybe that would be a good time to do it, or do you think December is going to be kind of hit and miss with a quorum?
I'll have to advise on the scheduling, just because I'll have my hands full a little bit with
Or maybe target
these two so far.
focus on either December or January meeting. I just kind of keep it open.
Yep.
Do I hear a motion for that as a possible meeting of panelists?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
All right, let's take a vote.
Hannon,
Yes.
Commissioner Marinelli,
Yes.
Commissioner Gall,
Yes,
Commissioner Gittens.
Yes.
So approved.
it's nice to be on a commission
I'll
that
put it
says
on the
yes and gets
list.
stuff done once in a while. Great. Commissioner Marinelli, are you done with any, or do you have any further referrals to staff?
I do not have any further referrals. I just want to thank my fellow commissioners for being here this evening so we could have a quorum.
You are an effective referral, and we appreciate it, Commissioner Hannon. You're welcome.
You can't defer them. Thank you. No referrals. Thank you.
Before mine, Commissioner Gittens, do you have any referrals?
No referrals. Just want to say kudos to the staff and the entire commission for, your tireless work and efforts today. I think it's commendable. The only thing I would say is, how do we continue all the efforts that we've already engaged on, but other than that.
I'll give you a call after the meeting regarding the other ones.
I'll point out just
Yeah.
as information that I'm leaving the home key alone by itself for November, just because there's
that's fine.
potential
Oh, thank you.
anticipation for a lot of
Thank you.
a lot of topic, a lot of public interest in that topic.
Great. Well, here's
you guys
what I
can
wanted to do. We talked about feeding. I think I've discussed sufficiently here about talking with Providence and Little Company of Mary about tying up loose ends with social work and tracking folks with police department. I'll try to do that offline. If anybody wants to join me on a call, feel free. There's also, we had with the prosecutor's department, I went to the director of one of the healthcare divisions of the state government and hit them with about 4 or 5 emails on how to get Medi-Cal, CalWorks, and that type of access for our homeless courts. And they reply from that level, which is for me, I'm a sales guy, that's kind of fun. But there is a contact that I have with a director at county level that handles those programs. And I'm going to try to set up a call with the prosecutor and the navigator with that county official if they haven't done that already. We had a couple of good calls with Social Security Agency and the DMV. The DMV director in Sacramento helped us set up the call, which really surprised me. It was very impressive that you had that level of interest from that level. You just have to find the right person. I did also have a conversation with Deputy Director Tom Osborne of the California Office of Emergency Services. And I know that Commissioner Gupta had said that he would like to invite somebody from the Brady group. And I wanted to invite, with the school district, a member of the Cal OES for the following reasons. His name is Tom Osborne, and he would have somebody, a local member of the Office of Emergency Services, talk about the most recent state plans for school safety that are being devised at state level. Now, wouldn't that be great to have a state level official with a school board official with our commission and our police and fire and prosecutors talking about the latest and greatest to help us protect our schools and public places further. Therefore, and I want to also add this to my motion, and we can edit it if you like, but.
If that's for the school safety topic,
Yes.
you can just provide me the contact information.
Yes, sir.
And I'll try and just into that one presentation
Okay.
for all the school district active shooter topic.
Sure,
We'll just
sounds good. Now, with the.
efficiency.
With the efficiency question with the Brady nonprofit group that Commissioner Gupta wanted to bring on, that would be a good group to bring on maybe in that meeting, but I leave it up to the commission's discussion here on whether that would be helpful in that meeting or if it should be planned in a separate meeting, because it may go the way of gun control. Things like that might be peripheral to the conversation of school safety. I'm not sure because he's not here. Does anybody have any thoughts about that? Should we leave it until he's able to refer it himself?
Yeah, safety wise, I'll jump out and just say, I think it's important that we acknowledge all best practices when it comes to this
And
particular.
we can also play it by ear too.
Yeah, yeah.
If they're just based on availability and scheduling, if we get the school district one meeting out and I can
We can all, yeah.
on the table, if I can do that in that order, even if it takes 2 meetings, at least it's
Okay.
back to back and coincides. Even if it's not one meeting. So
He has a lot of great ideas and I want to make sure we, honor them or we vote on them as appropriate.
will you just forward me
Yes.
the contact info
I
for
will
him?
do that for that as well, and that completes my referrals to staff. I'm really excited about the next couple meetings. This is almost as much fun as Monday Night Football, and I thank you all for this meeting of the Redondo Beach Public Safety Commission, and we are adjourned at 8:37 PM.
Excellent work, everybody.
Let me
That was
stop
fun.
these. Let me stop these first before we engage in